My name is Evert Verhulp. I'm Professor of Labour Law at the University of Amsterdam, and I'm an independent member of the Social Economic Counsil in the Netherlands. Gig workers doesn't lack basic rights that normal workers do enjoy. The whole problem is that they don't enforce regulations that are applicable on them, which makes it quite hard to invent new regulations that can, well, improve the position of gig workers, because the regulation is already there. I would advise gig workers to organize. And whether that is becoming a member of the existing trade unions, or that can be by organizing themselves into new trade unions, that's not my major concern. My concern is that a gig worker is not able to negotiate for himself the fair employment conditions that are necessary. And well, we know that if people organize, they have a better possibility to negotiate. So I would say it would make much sense for gig workers to organize. I do want to emphasize is that we have a lot of regulations already in place, and those regulations are quite sophisticated. So we don't have a lack of legislation or regulations, but we do have a lack of we do lack the possibility to apply those regulations to the gig workers, and that's due to several facts. But one of the facts is that some gig workers don't want to apply those regulations on themselves because they are less attractive on the labor market if they do, which make it for them impossible to get a job, to get a gig work. And on the opposite side, for the people that are offering gig jobs and gig work are also not in favor of applying those regulations, because the gig work will become too expensive or too difficult to organize, and therefore they are not applying those rules. And I think we should find a way to apply regulations without a burden people feel by applying those rules. And that's also really a challenge. I think Corona does have an impact on the position of gig workers, because they are more dependent on gig work. If the economy is booming, there's a lot of work, and they can also choose to become an employee somewhere in a normal employers organization. But I think those alternatives are less now, and therefore gig workers are feeling to be forced to accept less favorable labor conditions than they would have in a booming economy. So that's one of the reasons why I think, well, gig work is being seen as some kind of fun role job. The other reason is that working from home is being endorsed by the government and is being promoted now. But a lot of jobs, well, you simply cannot do them from home, like nursing, cleaning, etc. And especially gig work is something you can do from home. So if you're trying to endorse and stimulate working from home, I think gig work will fit into the scheme and will be something that people are taking up more and more. The question whether the EU should jump in to protect gig workers is a hard one to answer. I would say there is a lot of regulation already in place, and also thanks to the EU, which has some fine regulations and which are all implemented in the EU legislation of the member states. So there is a lot of legislation, but the question is whether the legislation is applicable, and that depends on the answer to the question whether the gig worker is an employee or self-employed. And if we consider them as being self-employed, a lot of those regulations do not apply. If we consider them as being employees, the regulations are already in place and well, are fine. And if they are not fine for the irregular worker as well. So that would be the main reason to review those rules, but not in respect to the gig worker only, I would say. Well, one of the major challenges that will come to us thanks to the platform economy is that the concept of the employer will be more fragmented. Platform work does allow people to become employer by themselves. And you can see it, for example, in the household, where people used to be sent to the household by some kind of an agency, and then the agency could be the employer. And if a platform just distributes, which is not a good word for it, but distributes people to households, then the households themselves will become the employer. And it's quite hard to impose on those kind of employers all kind of regulations. I think gig work is here to stay, because the possibility to carve jobs into small tasks and distribute them to more people than before is an economic, very interesting perspective for the consumer, but also sometimes for the worker. So I think it's here to stay.